Some of you know that I had the privilege of working for Billy Graham for 4 years. He's a marvelous man. Never wanted to be an evangelist. He wanted to be a ball player. He's very tall, very athletic, very well coordinated. Loves golf, plays golf. And when he was a kid, he wanted to be a major league ball player. He was very good. He was on his way to that. When God laid his hand on him and turned him around and said, "No, I need you for something else." And he became an evangelist who has done something very unusual for evangelists. He's gone through his whole career without ever any scandal attaching to him, whatever. And he did that easily because he was just an honest man, honest to the core. Just the sweetest man and the most honest man you'd ever want to meet. Now I want to ask you an ethical question. Do you think it's all right, legitimate, for Billy, a man who's called to be an evangelist, servant of God, for him ever to take time off to play around with golf? Hello? Yes. Yes. Why? How can you say that? It's all right. It's all right. I start with this illustration because you're going to need it before this sermon is over. This is a very difficult sermon for me to preach. It's the most embarrassing sermon. Well, I don't know. There may have been others, but this is the most embarrassing sermon to preach that I can think of that I've had in a long time. Because the title is, with promises like these, and the obvious conclusion is, why aren't you doing a better job? So, Paul asks the people to consider all of the promises they have. He said, well, so why aren't you doing a better job as God's ambassadors? Why aren't you doing a better job of everything? Why aren't you spending more time on it, more energy? Now you see why I asked whether Billy Graham can take time off for a round of golf. Yes, he can. God does not want you to kill yourself in his service. He wants you to have life and have it abundantly. But he also wants you to be in his service. And he'll take care of your rest time. He did with the disciples. When they were exhausted, he said, all right, guys, come on, let's go apart and we'll rest a while. And he didn't do it only the one time that the Gospels record that he said that to them. It was 3 years, and you don't think that he only one time in 3 years told them, okay, guys, it's time to go rest. We're told that to show that that was part of his relationship with him. But a permanent rest is not what he had in mind when he called us to be his children. He's given us amazing promises, and with these promises, he expects us to trust him and believe in him. I was very impressed with what Tony said during our time of sharing about the way the military live and what their ethic is, why they do what they do. Astonishing things. Young kids, you think it's amazing that so young they have the judgment, and the discipline, the self-control, and all of that. Well, it's part of training. And Tony at one point said, I don't know why they do it. I'll tell you why they do it, Tony. I know why they do it. They do it for each other. They do it for their bodies. It doesn't matter to them as much what the larger geopolitical issues are. They do it because they're there, and there are other guys beside them. They do it for each other. They know he's depending on me as I depend on him, and they do it for each other. Charlie has made this clear to us from his experience in World War II. Excuse me, Charlie, I didn't want to put it World War II. It was my dad who did But they do it for each other. They train, and they depend on each other, and they care for each other. The bonds are strong. And we are intended to be that way with each other as God's army, God's family. He doesn't put us in the same kinds of danger. Some of the Christian family in India have been put into that kind of danger. When we look back through church history, we see many times when the Christians had to face all kinds of dangers, terrible dangers, persecutions of all kinds. But we have it very, very easy. We have it probably easier than any group of Christians at any time in the history of the world. I thought about trying to preach part of this sermon by walking around mugging, but I'm very grateful to Dan for making sure that this gets on YouTube. So I'm not going to walk around mugging because the camera would miss it. But I want to ask all of you to help me here. The text that we're looking at is chapter 7, verse 1. With promises like these, dear brothers, and then it says what we ought to be doing. With promises like these, and I want you to share with me what these promises are. Tell me what promises Paul is talking about. He's talking about all the promises that God has made to Christians. What are they? Yes, you're being quizzed. I want some answers. I'm going to look at the Sunday school teachers first, and then the elders, and then the deacons. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Hey, is that a strong promise or what? That comes from one of our youth. She's not quite as youth today as she was last week, but she's still youth. She just had her 20th birthday. I will never leave you or forsake you. This, who's talking? I will never leave you nor forsake you. God said the same thing to Israel in the Old Testament. I will never leave you or forsake you. Man, that's a promise. Do we need any more? But there are dozens more. Somebody else with another promise.
You're a new creature in Christ. The old has passed away, the new has come.
The old has passed away. You're a new creation. Promise, another promise. Well, here's the point of why this sermon is embarrassing. I know 50 that I can recount to you like that. Yes. He's promised us eternity in heaven if we believe it. Trust him, you'll never die. But the reason this sermon is embarrassing is that I know more promises than you do. So I should be doing a better job. If you don't know all the promises, maybe you're not excited enough to say, oh, well, with all those promises, of course, I'd be doing a better job. Well, I already know them. So why haven't I been doing a better job? That's why it's embarrassing. You can say, well, if you, with all that you know, Pastor, if you're not doing a better job, how come you look at me and want me to do a better job? Well, because it's my job to look at you and tell you to do a better job. That's what I'm here for. It's a little difficult at times. Once or twice over the course of the time that I've been with you, there were people who said, I think he was mad at us today. No, I'm not mad at you. Just telling you that God has done so much for you. How come you don't respond a little better? You see, this is hard for me to say, and you can say back,